Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at the Spanish webinar titled Present, Present Progressive, and Future Tense. This webinar will cover both our high school elective course as well as our career certificate program and is also being recorded. You all will receive a copy of this webinar via email once the webinar has concluded, as well as any of you that were not able to join us live today. You should be watching this recording now. If you've not been to a webinar with us before, a couple of options you may see on your screen now to interact with us. First is by raising your hand as designated by the hand icon to the left-hand side. Also, any questions that come up, if there's any kind of technical trouble you seem to be facing with the webinar, if you have any questions about the content, anything about your Spanish course, please feel free to ask any questions for us so we can help you accordingly. Bienvenidos a Español. Welcome to Spanish. My name is Zach Lansdowne. I'm one of two Spanish instructors here at Penn Foster. Also with us here today is Dan Chirillo. You do have a variety of ways to get in contact with both of us throughout your Penn Foster high school course or your career certificate program. Email and chat options are available through the Help and Support tab of your student portal. Also, you may give us a call between 9 and 6 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday at 1-888-427-1000. You'll just be asked to enter your student ID number as well as selecting option 5 to speak with education. And finally, you can text the word LEARN, L-E-A-R-N, to 39033. Before we get started today, I'd like to just take a brief poll to find out everybody's language background if you have taken a foreign language before. So please answer the question on your screen now. Have you taken a foreign language before? Okay, it looks like everybody's voted here. So share the response with the group. And it looks like everybody that is with us here today has taken a foreign language before. So if it's your experience with Spanish, welcome back to another round of Spanish learning. If it was a different foreign language, one of the modern foreign languages like Spanish, Italian, anything like that, this may definitely be a little bit easier to you. It may come second nature based on what you already have learned. So we hope this will be very informative for you, but definitely, if you're stuck on anything, please ask away. As we get started today, we'll just go over today's objectives. We're going to explain and practice verb conjugation in the present tense, present progressive, and future tenses. If you are not sure what verb conjugation means, it may be a good idea to view our verb conjugation webinar where we talk about the concept, but just to go over it briefly with you here today. Basically, Spanish is a language that really depends on endings. Endings are what tells us, how verbs are acting in the sentence, who is doing the subject of the verb, how many people are involved, etc., and when it happened. So the first concept we'll cover today is present tense, and we start with our three kinds of verbs. We're going to start with verbs that end with AR, ER, or IR. First, you will start with the infinitive. The infinitive of a verb is really just the to version of the verb. So hablar means to speak, comer means to eat, and vivir means to live. After you have your infinitive, all you're going to do is separate that infinitive into two parts. The first being the stem of the verb, which are all the letters before the ending, and then obviously the ending, the AR, ER, IR. So what we have left then is our stem. We'll look at the AR example first. HABL for hablar would be our stem. What you're going to do then is add personal endings, and these endings do change from the type of verb you're working with to that stem to form a conjugated verb form. So hablo, for example, this first block here, hablo means I speak. Hablas, you speak. Habla, he or she speaks. Hablamos, we speak. Habláis, you all speak. And hablan, they speak. So really, again, these endings are going to tell us a lot of things. Going to tell us who is doing the subject, how many people are involved, and when it is happening. Just as a side note, if we look off to the left, we see this little chart that says subject pronouns. And Spanish has subject pronouns just like English does. You know, we say I, you, he, she, we, you, they. So does Spanish. They're just different words, obviously. So yo means I, tú means you, él and ella, he and she. Spanish does a little bit of a unique thing here. We have two different versions of you. We have basically a second person, which is a familiar you. So if you're talking to a friend or someone that's very close to you, you're really going to use this familiar second person. However, if you don't know someone, if you're talking to someone on the street, you really want to use this third person UD form, or usted is what UD stands for. Going over to the plural, we have nosotros, okay, we if you're talking in a group. Vosotros, which you really don't have to pay too much attention to in this course. This is really a Spain dialect, so if you're talking to people in Spain only, the rest of the world really goes down to the third person, you. So ellos means they, or ellas depending on gender, which we won't talk about in this webinar too much, and ustedes. So we talked a little bit briefly here about these verbs that end with AR. Notice now we'll go over to the ER verbs, this chart in the middle. Dealing with the verb comer, to eat, our stem of that verb is com, com, plus our endings determine what our verb form will be. So by combining stem plus ending, an example, comes means you eat. And finally, onto our IR verbs. Similarly, we have our stem, vive, for vivir, and we're just adding personal endings, again, depending on person and number. So ellos viven, they live. You know, if you want to say, for example, we live, you would just use this emos form, so vivimos, etc. Just give you all a moment if you're copying some notes down here. Definitely, if there's anything that was confusing about what I just said, please ask. Dan is also here with us to answer those questions. Okay, so moving on, we're going to try some practice sentences. And I do ask for your participation. Don't feel afraid to, respond, and it's okay if you get it wrong. You're not being graded here in this webinar. Just an opportunity for you to interact with us instructors. So here's some 8 example sentences above. Below is a chart of all of the endings that you just wrote down, depending on, again, person and number. Remember that the first 3 rows here are in the singular, I, you, he, she. The last 3 rows are in the plural, we, you, and they. And then depending on AR, ER, IR, you will have these set of endings. So in number 1, we want to say he attends the University of Illinois. So how would we say he attends? Using the subject pronoun L. You can feel free to type your answer in the questions box for us. All right, so we'll do the first one here together to give you an idea. We're looking at this verb assistir. Okay, and it looks like we have a couple of responses coming in, so thank you. Assiste would be our correct response. All we're going to do again is removing this IR off the infinitive and then adding an E, or pronounced A in Spanish. So that's ASISTE. Moving on to number 2. Nosotros blank la puerta. We're trying to say we open the door. So how would we say we open in Spanish? Using the verb abrir. Okay, our correct response here, abrimos. ABRIMOS. Again, just look at your main infinitive, take off that ending, and then add whatever ending is down here in the chart to agree with the subject. Next, number 3, Javier shares his French fries. So how would we say Javier shares? Using the verb compartir. Correct response, comparte, C-O-M. I apologize for my writing. It's a little tough to write on a PowerPoint. Comparte, C-O-M-P-A-R-T-E. Number 4. Now this one's a little bit tricky, just because it uses the verb gustar, which means to like. And when you like to do something, it's key that you're understanding that too. So we're always going to use the infinitive when we use gustar. So how would we say, in this case, she likes to write? So I probably should have explained this a little bit better. We will go over gustar in a different webinar, but really all that you need to do is just move this main infinitive right into the blank. So, a ella le gusta escribir cuentos. She likes to write stories. Number 5, they decide to buy clothing. So in this case, we're looking for they decide using decidir. Okay, it looks like we got a couple of responses. Sometimes the infinitive, sometimes a different tense. Remember here, we're only dealing with present tense, so we take that IR off the main infinitive and then just add EN for an IR. So deciden, DECIDEN would be our response. Moving on to number 6. In the art class, Lily describes the picture. Describir, main verb. How would we say Lily describes? Describe would be our correct response. spelled just like the English word describe. Describe. Okay, number 7, I live in Arlington Heights. How would we say I live? Vivere is our main verb. We just drop off that IR once again. Add the O, which is I. Vivo. Very good. And finally, number 8, my brother. Let me see here. Just a second here. My brother opens the can of soup. Abre would be our correct response. A-B-R-E. Okay, so this pretty much describes the present tense. So any final questions about the present tense, I'll just give you all a moment now to ask those. Okay, next we're going to talk about the present progressive. Present progressive is pretty similar to the present tense in meaning. However, it's really used to express action in progress. So we're going to use that helping verb like in English, am, or the verb is to be, but am, are, is, etc. So the present progressive is formed by 2 parts. The first part of the present progressive is the forms of estar, which is one of the verbs to be in Spanish. So those forms include estoy in the first singular, estás in the second singular, está in the third singular. Over to the plural, estamos, first plural, estáis, second plural, and están, third plural. So after you have all of your forms of estar, all you're going to do then is just write the present participle. So how do we form the present participle? Basically, just removing that ending off the infinitive, just like the present tense. Although you're going to add ando for an AR verb, A-N-D-O, or E-endo for an ER or IR verb. And you notice the present participle is the same in every single form that you're looking at here. It's only the forms of estar that are changing. So that's really doing the job of telling us person and number. So if we wanted to say I am washing, we would say estoy lavando. If we want to say I am eating, estoy comiendo. I am writing, estoy escribiendo. Second singular, for example, estás lavando, you are washing. Estás comiendo, you are eating. Estás escribiendo, or you are writing. So you can think of these as your ing, progression, doing it in progress. There's a little bit of a caveat here with the present progressive. If you have a verb whose infinitive ends in er or ir, okay, and it has a stem that ends in a vowel, instead of adding endo, you're going to add yendo, so that I becomes a y, y-e-n-d-o. So the example there, leer, to read, if you dropped off that er from leer, you would have le as your stem. That ends in a vowel, so you just add yendo to that. Leyendo would be your present or your present participle. So we'll try doing a couple more practice sentences. Again, we do appreciate your participation. We'll first look at the modelo, the model. Juan is studying the notes in his Spanish course, is really what it's trying to say. So Juan is the third singular, he, right? You're looking for está, third singular, and the main verb is estudiar, which is an air verb. So you take off that AR and add ando, estudiando. Number 1, nosotros blanco en viaje, we are taking a vacation. How would we say we are taking? Okay, so we're going to look down to our forms here in red. For a star, nosotros corresponds with estamos, E-S-T-A-M-O-S. We look at our main verb hacer, okay, to take, and it's an ER verb, so we're just going to write endo for our ending, haciendo. Okay, number 2, the flight attendant is looking at the boarding passes. So flight attendant, we know that could be he or she. How would we say he or she is looking? Está mirando would be correct. Very good. ESTA for a star. And notice one thing while I'm writing this out, that this está form, very important that you try to have an accent over that A, because if you don't, it takes on a whole different meaning. So whenever you're using that verb, estar, just remember that accent's an important one. So está mirando for number 2. Number 3, now it is raining a lot. So we don't really have a clear subject here. Really, we think about it in in English. So third person singular, how would we say it is raining a lot? Está with the accent, very good. Lloviendo, L-O-V-I-E-N-D-O. Okay, number 4, the pilot and the co-pilot are deciding if we should or if we can leave now. So the pilot and the co-pilot, they, how would we say they are deciding? So we have 2 subjects here. They would be están, E-S-T-A-N. Decidir, it's an IR verb. We know that our ending is endo for that. Decidiendo. Next one, the plane is taking off. How would we say the plane is taking off? Plane is a singular subject. Third singular, está. And then despegar. despegando. Despegando. Apologize, I'm running out of room here on the line. So that's despegando. Number 6 is really the one that we have to be wary of. It says right here, ojo, which means to watch out. Okay, so how would we say, I am reading a book? Very good. Estoy leyendo. Estoy for that first singular. And remember, when you have a stem whose final letter ends with a vowel, you want to change that E to an Y. So leyendo. And number 7, the plane is arriving at its destination. Está llegando would be correct. Esta, llegando, Legando. Very good. Any final questions about the present progressive? Please ask those now, and we'll be moving on to the future tense in just a moment. Okay, so finally, the future tense. Obviously, if we're talking about the future tense, it's used to express action in the future, things that you will do. So again, we start with our AR, ER, IR verbs that we have originally, hablar, comer, vivir. Now, I leave this one to the end because it's probably the easiest tense that you will learn in Spanish. All you're going to do, instead of dividing your infinitive into two parts, how we said dividing into the stem and divide it into the ending, all you're going to do is actually just add the same endings for every type of verb to the infinitive. So we see with, hablar, comer, vivir, those forms are all written in black on your screen now, but you see that final letter is in red. So the endings in the future tense are all the same, depending on, whichever type of verb you're working with. So they include a in the first singular, us in the second singular, a in the third singular, amos in the first plural, eis in the second plural, and an in the third plural. So hablaré means I will speak, hablarás, you will speak, hablará, he or she will speak, etc. And so on throughout the rest of the charts here. I'll just give you a moment if you're writing down those endings. Okay, so on to our final practice activity. El futuro, the future. We want to complete each phrase with the correct form of the verb in the future tense. Felipe will write a novel after he graduates. So using the verb escribir, I'm not going to write these down in the blank because, again, how do we form that future tense? We look at our infinitive, and we're just going to add the appropriate ending from the chart below here. Escribir would be number 1. Let me just grab the pen here. We're just going to add an a to the end of that. I will study at the university. How would we say I will study? So I will study is just estudiaré, with an E on the end. Enrique and Elena, they will live in San Diego. We have vivir, so we have they. We go down to our third plural, on would be our ending, vivirán. Okay, number 4, she will wear a red blouse on Monday. Llevará. To y Paco, you and Paco, we're using here that second plural, eis ending. Trabajaréis, eis. And 6 and 7 are what are called irregular forms here. I won't worry about those too much for now, but just to keep in mind with verbs in general that, a lot of verbs are going to just form their ending or their stem in the normal fashion that we've been talking about. There are a few that do have some spelling changes. So number 6 and 7, I'll just provide you the correct response. If we're trying to say you will do, that C in hacer actually becomes an R, so harás, H-A-R-A-S, harás. And tener actually puts a D in there to the stem. So Ricardo EO is in the first plural, we. So tendremos, T-E-N-D-R-E-M-O-S. So as you notice, it's the same endings that are below. It's just a little bit of a spelling change in the stem. That does conclude our webinar for today. You may definitely ask any of your preguntas, any questions you have now in that webinar question area. Thank you so much for your participation. Dan, I really appreciate that. As you learn different Spanish concepts, definitely keep doing practice on your own, and please call us for assistance. You can email and chat with us or text as designated on your screen. We both wish you buena suerte, good luck in Spanish, and have a great day.